Protein. What is it? How much do we need? When do we need it? Why is it important? Let's cover all those basics to make sure that you're getting the proper amounts to sustain your body but get you the best results possible. So before I do that, let's digress and talk about our quintessential statement that helps guide our journey, which is calories are king, protein is queen, carbs and fats adjustable in between. So if we look at that and just remember, we have to be in a calorie deficit. So we need to be consuming less food, right? There needs to be less energy. Food is energy. Calories are energy going into our system than we actually need in order for us to lose weight. We need to be consuming less than we actually need, right? And then the body goes, oh, I better use what's here instead of using what's being put inside our systems. And if we're not losing weight, then for some reason we might not be in an actual calorie deficit, be it even just one weekend meal that pushes us beyond that scope of what a negative calorie intake, a deficit, would be for the entire week. So that's why that is so critical and important. But then that brings us to the queen, protein. And the reason protein is the queen is because protein is ultimately what makes up our entire being. We are a system of proteins, right? Our skin comes from collagen, which is a source of proteins, our bone, our makeup in general. And so the queen really is the one, as we all know, that tells the king what to do and how to do it. So as we are on this weight loss journey, we would ultimately like to see ourselves preserve as much muscle mass as possible so that we don't just become, and I really dislike this term, but it helps bring this into light, skinny fat, right? We don't want to just lose weight, we want to lose fat. We want to preserve the muscle. So it's people that use the word toned, right? Or muscular, or have a physique, or show shape and contour. You are only able to do that if you preserve the muscle that you've worked so hard to build. The building block of muscle are proteins. And so what we ultimately want to do is sustain that muscle mass as much as we possibly can. We don't want to just be in a calorie deficit, lose all of this weight, and realize we didn't really lose that much fat, we lost a lot of muscle mass. Because it can honestly take, for a trained adult, anywhere from within an entire year, anywhere from a half a pound to a max of 1.5 pounds of muscle mass is what the average adult can build in the course of a year. So if you're working 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week to really build as much strength and muscle as possible, well, we don't want to eradicate that. I mean, a pound gone like that. And so that's why protein is our queen. She is so important. So that is why we need to make sure that we are getting the adequate amount. But how much is the adequate amount? If we are looking at it from a research standpoint as what is current to date, and I say that way because science is ever changing. So anyone that speaks in absolutes is going to be completely wrong because we don't know what we don't know, and we are ever learning and discovering, and that is the beauty with nutrition, with science. So what we know to date is that for most people, a range of 0.8 grams to 1.2 grams of protein per day per pound of body weight that you ultimately want to weigh. So your goal weight, right? So somebody that is wanting to weigh 100 pounds, just for the simplicity of math, would want to eat between 80 and 120 grams of protein every single day, right? And so you want to go with that range. Now, the reason it's a range is because just like with anything, food tracking is not going to be 100% accurate. The Food and Drug Administration allows for a 20% off with calories and macros based on what is put on the shelves in your stores. And so therefore, a 100-calorie pack of something may honestly only have 80 calories, or it may have 120. So if you look at a lot of those things, and they tell you if it's got 200, it's got 300 calories, and all of a sudden you've got a 20-calorie potential surplus, that's why. And it's because we ultimately can't weigh and measure everything to an exact amount. Even when we do it ourselves, a chicken breast that is organic and free range is going to have naturally more fat within it than one that is produced in a certain way. And so this difference, and it's so minute, we want to be able to give ourselves that range. And that's why we don't need to get caught up in the weeds for the most part when it comes to weight loss in this journey. And so when we look at this, 0.8 to 1.2 grams of goal weight, it's good to figure out where that is for you, and then to figure out where you are eating. And so that's where something like a food tracker like MyFitnessPal can come really handy, and a measurement scale just for a few days, maybe potentially a little bit longer depending on you, to get a gauge and a sense of where you're at. Now, we don't have to do that, which brings me to part 2 of this one, the how as well. So you could go through that process, but you could also use your hand as a guiding measure. So for women, we would want to have within our 5 meals a day, this is how this is broken down, 5 meals a day, we would want to have a palm size, a single palm size thickness and width, because it's going to be pretty accurate to your body size in general. A lot of times people say, I have small hands. That usually equates to fingers more than it does to your palms. Your palms are usually in relation to your body. And so for men, it would be two palms within that. So we could look at that and we could say, all right, so that would probably be, for most women, about 5 ounces of something like chicken, right? For men, it would probably be between 8 and maybe 10 within that range, right? And that would be, honestly, 4 to 5 meals per day. That would be a half a cup of Greek yogurt to a full cup of Greek yogurt. That would be cottage cheese. That would be deli meats. That would be fish. That would be eggs. And the eggs could be scrambled. They could be hard boiled. It could be beef jerky. It could be turkey jerky. That could be seitan. That could be, there's so many different things that could be for protein. And that's just to bring some awareness that it doesn't have to be protein powders or anything like that. And so I want to get you in the habit of looking at the label and seeing where that would be. For women, it's mostly trying to get within your meals, all of your main meals, within at least your main 4, breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner. And if you eat a 5th, great. If you only eat 3, we just got to push a little bit heavier with those 3 meals on the amount of protein that we're getting. If you eat 2, we've really got to be diligent and aware. But ultimately, it's a minimum of 20 grams, goal of probably 25 to 30 on each of those meals. Because for most of us, right, we're probably not at a goal weight of 100 pounds unless you're already a very short-statured and specific physique. And so that would be 20, 40, 60, 80 at minimum. But honestly, probably wanting to go 30, 60, 90, 120, right? And 120 for most is probably going to be in that 0.8 grams per pound of goal weight. Now, it may need to be a lot higher than that. Now, once we start getting up, depending on where you are starting in your journey and where you would like to go, we really don't need to go much beyond 175 to 200 grams of protein per day for most women. Now, for most men, we probably don't need to go beyond 225 to 250. So if you're counting based on your goal weight, and your goal weight is to be something like 275 pounds, we do not need to be eating up to 315 grams of protein a day. So reach out directly if you find yourself in those spectrums and you need some guidance along there. Men, it's going to be between 30 to 40 grams per meal that we are going for. Now, some questions that are often asked, but I've heard it can damage your kidneys. Current research, always I say current because this is what's current to date at the time that I'm filming this, has proven that you cannot damage your kidneys, right? But bloating, current research that for most people, it's actually from the fiber intake that can cause that, or it is from not having enough fiber intake to offset and let your body process through that protein. So take that into account if you're experiencing some bloat or some constipation with that, and take into account where you're starting from. If you look and you measure and you see, oh my gosh, I'm getting 40 grams of protein per day, and you're telling me, Joseph, that I need to honestly be at like 145 based on this, then start from where you're at. If we look at the hierarchy of nutrition importance, the bottom, the baseline, is with anything, adherence. So what can you adhere to? So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being 100% guaranteed all in, could you do 75 grams a day? And you're like, yeah, I totally could. Sweet, could you do 80? Yeah, I think I could. You said think. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you be? Maybe like a 9, right? Could you do 85? I think I'd be like a 7. I feel like it's gonna start to fall off. Cool, so let's go to 80 grams. So you wanna take into that and work from where you are at, and then we will improve. This is where sustainable change is going to happen. And then we wanna continually to increase once that becomes possible and you become comfortable. So with protein, do you wanna space it out more between your meals? If possible. If possible. And the main reason is protein, and the reason it is so important beyond it being the chemical makeup of our body, is very thermogenic. This is also why it is so important. And when I say thermogenic, what I mean is it actually is going through the process of thermogenesis. So your body is breaking that protein down just to digest it, because it's harder for your body to digest just naturally because of its breakdown, because it's used to build muscle, build bone. And so obviously it's important. And during that process, up to 30% of it is going to be broken down just during digestion. So your body's actually burning calories. Your metabolism is revving up to burn those calories while you are digesting it. This is great news, which is why we can actually have a lot more protein, and it actually helps bump up our calories to a higher level than we actually thought we could be eating. And protein is the most satiating of all the macronutrients. So you're going to feel full. You're going to feel full a lot longer than you may have in the past with something that is very quick burning, like a carbohydrate, or something that is very non-thermogenic, borderline not at all, like fats, which means the only way we're going to be burning those fats are to be moving. I would rather be burning calories when I'm not moving. I would rather be preserving muscle mass while eating more calories because I'm doing it from protein and having to do less as far as physical activity, because then it's just win-win-win. My physique looks better. I eat more, I feel full, my body feels great, my joints recover. I mean, I work out less than I actually thought I had to, and I'm losing weight and I'm looking better. So this is why this is so absolutely important. So the win, right? And notice how I said every 4 to 5 meals. You can have it in a large quantity. Your body is going to process it. It's not that it just goes to waste. What goes in your body does get processed throughout that entire process of, digestion. It has to go through that. But ultimately, if we're just stacking food on top of food on top of food all in one sitting, it can be just hard on your gut. So it can be hard on your digestive system, and then that's where the bloating or the uncomfortableness can come from. And so ultimately, what we have found from a muscle protein synthesis standpoint and a thermogenic standpoint is that having anywhere from 25 to 40 grams, preferably that 30 plus is kind of the sweet spot where protein synthesis is shown to be the best in most humans, is going to happen every 3 to 4 hours. So if you possibly can, a breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner, spaced out a little bit more frequently, and hitting that 20 minimum, but goal of 30 to 40 is going to be ideal. So palm size to 2 palm sizes. So that's where we can look at all those different protein sources, and there's no right or wrong. The thing that I want you to take into consideration when you're looking at your protein options is, does this have an immense amount of fat? So the leaner the protein, naturally, the less calories it's going to have. And that's where something like bulking up the protein can be really helpful from your leaner sources as opposed to just stuff that has protein. Because oftentimes we're just a little bit confused, and this is where I want you to start looking at labels. Protein or peanut butter is often considered to be a protein. Almonds, often considered to be protein. They're like, it's a great source. And if you ever see on labels stuff that says a great source, I'm just going to leave my face as I just left it. You don't see it without a mask very often anyways. So ultimately, those things are fats because they have more fat content. More of their calories are coming from fats than they are from protein. They have some protein in them. So there are a lot of things that are going to be a mix of protein and carbs, like chickpeas, a great source. Throw those in on your salads, but consider that it is not just a protein source. So a lot of things are a hybrid, a mix. And we want to try and emulsify with things that are not a mix to get enough protein, but not to surplus our calories and not actually then be able to lose weight. And so that's where things like chicken breast is going to be less than chicken thigh because it has less fat within it. Lean ground turkey and even lean ground beef, but try and buy the 99% lean ground turkey and the 96% lean ground beef. Those are going to be your leaner, better sources, right? Meats and things that are not completely soaked in certain marinades. Marinate yourself with things that are going to be better. Use rubs, which are completely free of calories in most parts, right? It's going to be a lot better in those circumstances. Eggs can be great, but maybe do 1 whole egg and then do a half a cup or 4 to 5 or even a full cup, depending on male and needing more, of egg whites. And this is how we can bump that all on up. And we can look then for some other options that would help with indifferent things if you need things to be more snack-like. Things like a Baby Bell cheese or a string cheese light can be great options. It's a small amount, but it doesn't bump your calories up too high. And it's not like we're just digging into a whole thing of almond butter and actually adding 400 plus calories and it's mostly just fat. And then we're just like, whoa, that actually should have been, or could have been, I should say, an entire meal. So we want to go for those leaner sources. Then you can also start doing some swaps. Maybe you need to get a little bit more, but you want to have pasta, and you're going to do pasta that is chickpea based. So you're still getting a split of carb and protein, but you're upping your protein from that source, right? Then there's plenty of things like tempeh, soy, seitan, if you're going more the vegetarian or even vegan based options. So it doesn't mean that you have to do it by having more meat. I just like meat, and so I keep deli meats on hand, even though they're going to be a higher salt content, because it's a quick grab. I keep lean, brain fart here for a second, beef jerky and turkey jerky on hand, and then ultimately, when I'm really in a pinch or it's super early in the morning, things like protein shakes and protein bars can be very handy, just if it's trying to help you bump up to that source. Right? So that covers the when, that covers the how, that covers the why, and that covers the what. But if you have any questions, as always, just reach on out.